Can a piece of copper wire really help you grow more vegetables? No, it's total BS. Let's dive into why this myth keeps spreading and what actually increases yield in your garden. Electroculture is the idea that plants grow better when exposed to electricity. We're talking copper rods stuck in the soil, antennas reaching toward the sky like your garden thinks it's a ham radio operator, wires wrapped around tomato plants like they're being interrogated by the CIA. The claim? Plants supposedly absorb atmospheric energy or natural electricity and somehow, through mechanisms that are never quite explained, turn it into faster growth and bigger yields. It sounds scientific. It uses real words like electromagnetic and frequency. And let's be honest, it looks cool on camera. Spiral copper coils catching the light, very aesthetic, very mysterious. And that's exactly why it spreads. Here's the thing. Electroculture isn't built on complete nonsense. It's built on taking real phenomena and stretching them until they snap. Yes, plants absolutely use electrical signals internally, action potentials that help coordinate responses to touch, damage, and stress. That's real biology. Yes, lightning adds nitrogen to the soil. When lightning strikes, it breaks apart nitrogen molecules in the atmosphere, which then rain down as usable nutrients. That's real chemistry. And yes, electricity exists in nature. We're not denying the existence of electromagnetic fields or atmospheric charge, but here's the problem. And this is where electroculture quietly makes a leap off a logical cliff and hopes you don't notice. None of that means a passive copper wire stuck in dirt does anything useful. That's the jump. That's the trick. Real phenomena exist. Therefore, this random thing I'm doing must work because it's related, adjacent, in the same conceptual neighborhood. That's not science, that's vibes. Let's get into why electroculture fails at the most basic level. For electricity to actually do something, you need to transfer energy, to affect plant cells, to change literally anything, you need three things. 1. A voltage source, something generating an electrical potential difference. 2. A current, actual electrons moving through a circuit. 3. A measurable energy transfer that can do work. Standard electroculture setups provide none of that. Copper doesn't generate electricity on its own. It's a conductor, not a battery. Sticking a copper wire in soil doesn't create voltage any more than putting a garden hose in your yard creates water. What about atmospheric electricity? Surely there's something there, right? Well, yes, technically, but atmospheric electricity at ground level is extremely weak. We're talking microwatts at best. The amount of energy available is so small, it's functionally zero for plant metabolism. And here's the kicker. Plants cannot magically harvest energy from a wire like a solar panel harvests light. Photosynthesis works because chlorophyll molecules are specifically structured to capture photons and convert their energy through a complex biochemical cascade. There is no equivalent system in plants for electricity, none. It doesn't exist. If electroculture worked, if sticking copper wires in soil produced even a 5% increase in yield, commercial agriculture would be all over it. Not because farmers are particularly open-minded or experimental, but because they are ruthlessly practical. Farmers live and die by yield per acre. If copper wire gave them more tomatoes per plant, every field in California would look like a Radio Shack exploded in it. But they don't, because it doesn't work. No yield increase, no adoption, it's that simple. So if electroculture doesn't work, why do people swear by it? Why do you see testimonials and before and after photos? Here's the uncomfortable truth, and I say this with empathy because I've done this too. Most people who try electroculture change other things at the same time and they get excited. They decide this is the year they're really going to nail gardening. They install their copper antenna, and while they're at it, they also pay way more attention to their plants. Water more consistently because they're checking on their experiment every day. Maybe add some compost or improve the soil slightly. Plant during better weather conditions, choose better varieties, then they credit the copper. It's classic correlation versus causation confusion. The copper wire didn't help, the increased care did. It's the gardening equivalent of wearing lucky socks to the gym, having a great workout, and concluding the socks made you stronger. No, dude, you worked out. The socks were just there. This is so common in gardening because plants want to grow. They're incredibly resilient. Give them slightly better conditions, even accidentally, and they'll reward you. But that doesn't validate whatever weird thing you happen to be doing at the same time. And here's another thing. Sometimes electroculture people are doing something useful without realizing it. If you bury copper deep enough, it can act as a mild fungicide because copper ions are toxic to some fungi. Is that electroculture? No, that's just copper being copper, which we've known about for literally hundreds of years. But it gets wrapped into the electroculture narrative anyway, because it looks like it's working for electromagnetic reasons when really it's just working for boring old chemistry reasons. So if the science doesn't support it and the practical evidence is shaky at best, why does electroculture refuse to die? Because it survives on exactly the things that make bad ideas immortal. First, it's visually interesting. Copper spirals and antennas photograph beautifully. They look mystical. They look like something important is happening. Compare that to I added compost you, which is effective but profoundly un-Instagrammable. Second, it feels like forbidden knowledge. Electroculture often gets presented with this vibe of a big agriculture doesn't want you to know this, or rediscovered ancient technique they tried to hide. That narrative is catnip for a certain kind of mind. It suggests you're in on a secret. You're not a sheep. You're someone who thinks outside the box and dares to question the mainstream. Never mind that the reason mainstream agriculture doesn't use it is because it doesn't work, not because of some grand conspiracy. Third, and most importantly, it lets people skip the boring fundamentals. Real soil improvement takes time. Understanding nutrient cycling takes effort. Learning proper watering technique requires attention and adjustment. But copper wire, that's instant. You buy it, you install it, you're done. Now you can tell yourself you're doing advanced gardening while skipping the actual work. It's the appeal of a shortcut, and humans are deeply wired to want shortcuts. All right, let's get into the good stuff. If you genuinely want to grow more vegetables, not just feel like you're doing something cool, here's what actually matters. Number one, soil structure. Your soil needs to hold water without getting waterlogged, drain without drying out completely, and provide space for roots to actually move through it. Compacted clay, you're screwed. Pure sand, also screwed. You want that Goldilocks zone of loamy, well-aggregated soil with good tilth. How do you get there? Organic matter, which brings us to number two, organic matter. Compost, aged manure, cover crops that you chop and drop, leaf mulch, wood chips if you're patient. Organic matter improves everything. It holds nutrients, it feeds beneficial microbes, it improves soil structure, it buffers pH, it increases water retention. If I could only give you one piece of gardening advice, it would be this. Add more organic matter every year, forever. It's the closest thing to a magic bullet that actually exists. Number three, correct spacing. This one seems obvious, but it's shockingly easy to screw up. Too close together, and your plants compete for light, water, and nutrients. You end up with weak, spindly growth and poor yields. Too far apart, and you're wasting space and letting weeds take over. Read the seed packet, follow the spacing recommendations. They're not suggestions. They're based on what the plant needs to actually thrive. Number four, consistent water. Not water whenever you remember, not drench it once a week and hope for the best. Consistent water. Regular, appropriate amounts based on what the plant needs and what stage of growth it's in. Inconsistent watering causes blossom end rot in tomatoes, bitter lettuce, cracked carrots, and about 1,000 other problems. Get yourself on a schedule or install drip irrigation. Your plants will thank you. Number five, enough sunlight. Most vegetables want full sun, which means at least 6 to 8 hours of direct light per day, not dappled light through a tree, not bright shade, actual sun. If you're trying to grow tomatoes in a spot that gets 4 hours of light, no amount of fertilizer or copper wire or interpretive dance is going to fix that. Move the plant or accept smaller yields. Number six, real nutrients. Plants need nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and a bunch of micronutrients. They get these from soil organic matter breaking down, from mineralized rock particles, and yes, from fertilizer when needed. But they don't get them from atmospheric electricity. They don't absorb them through mysterious vibrations. They take them up through their roots as dissolved ions in soil water. Basic biology, not vibes. Get a soil test. Understand what your soil is lacking. Add appropriate amendments. Watch your plants actually respond. Here's what really bothers me about electroculture and why I'm spending several minutes of your life and mine talking about it. It's not just that it doesn't work, it's that it actively distracts people from learning things that do work. Every hour you spend researching the optimal angle for your copper antenna is an hour you're not spending learning about soil biology. Every dollar you spend on fancy wire could have bought actual compost. And worse, it trains people to think gardening is about tricks, about hacks, about discovering the one weird thing that makes everything easy. That's not what gardening is. Like, gardening is a system. It's about understanding how water, nutrients, light, and biology interact. It's about observation, adjustment, and patience. It's about working with how plants actually function, not trying to force them to respond to stuff they can't even detect. There's no shortcut to that understanding. But here's the good news. You don't need one. The fundamentals work. They work reliably. They work everywhere. They've worked for thousands of years, and they'll keep working long after the current crop of viral garden trends fades away. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. You don't need secret knowledge. You just need to do the boring stuff consistently. Look, I get it. Gardening can feel overwhelming. There's so much to learn, so much conflicting advice, so many ways to mess it up. And when someone comes along with a simple solution, just stick this copper wire in the ground, it's tempting. It feels actionable. It feels like you're doing something. But the truth is, gardening isn't magic. It's not hidden, and it's not suppressed by some agricultural conspiracies. It's just biology. And biology has rules. Those rules aren't particularly complicated, but they are non-negotiable. The real advantage in gardening doesn't come from tricks. It comes from understanding the system you're working within. It comes from paying attention to what your plants are actually telling you. It comes from building soil, choosing appropriate varieties, and giving your plants the basics they need. That's not as sexy as electroculture. It doesn't photograph as well. It won't get you accused of being a mystic or a rebel, but it will get you more tomatoes. And at the end of the day, isn't that what we're here for? Make of that what you will. If you want to learn more about what actually works in the garden, no gimmicks, no BS, hit subscribe. We've got more practical, science-based gardening content coming your way. And hey, if you've tried electroculture and you're convinced it worked, drop a comment. Tell me what you were doing. Let's talk about it. I'm genuinely curious whether we can figure out what actually made the difference. Thanks for watching. Now get out there and add some compost to something.